Good morning, good morning, good morning. How's everyone doing today? I hope you're doing well. I just woke up. Obviously. Sorry, I woke up a little late today. 1 second, let me grab a drink. I slept enough. Really? Well, happy birthday, Julia. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Julia. Happy birthday to you. I'm also eating a little breakfast. I hope you have a good one. So, I'm not a big fan of J.K. Rowling due to, her view of trans people, and obviously trans rights are human rights, so I don't support her. But the one thing I do like is that she ruined the phrase "you-know-who." Some woman got married, and somebody made a Twitter post that said we need to go check on you-know-who. And my first thought was, yes, Voldemort. No, it wasn't Voldemort that we needed to check in on. But I like to imagine that Voldemort's out there screaming, upset that some lady Seinfeld person got married. Wait a second, that's not enough stickers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's enough stickers, yes. The stickers are for doing your homework. And so far, chat has done 80 entries. Let me take a look to see where you're at now. Alright, we're looking at it, we're checking it, we're looking underneath the forms. Response is 81. Good job, everybody. I think that's enough for me for right now. When is homework being reviewed? Sometime next week. Thank you for the hydrate. Cheers. I mean, since there's 80 of them, I wasn't actually expecting 80. Then by Friday, so I have plenty of time to go through all of them. Oh no, the bug made me lag. Oh, if you ever are close to dropping a stream streak, you can watch a VOD. And I do try to publish the VODs every day now. Goblin Gang, yes, so technically I have more than enough streams for partner. The problem is that it has to be over a 60-day period. And so October we weren't hitting the numbers. We hit once or twice where we got close. But November we definitely hit the numbers. And so now I'm waiting for November to move further away. Right now we are at, we'll take a quick little look here. Name for the stretch. Let's see. Achievements. Okay. It's probably not going to be till the 20th till I have enough days, because right now we're at 2 of 6 for the 31 to 60 days. Hold on. You know, peanut butter and jellies are okay. Do you know what's really good? Peanut butter and jelly on a waffle. I have 2 Eggo waffles. That's what I'm doing right now, so I'm just eating the peanut butter and jelly Eggo waffles, and they're so good. Alright, we're going to be doing Crime Scene Cleaner this morning, because it's, again, the game that I just absolutely adore. It would be so cool. I mean, I don't think Daddy Bezos is going to give it to me that quickly, but I hope. I really hope. Lady Death, can you take my makeup off? You can take my makeup off while I play Crime Scene Cleaner. How's that sound? Gina, are you wearing makeup? No. So first you can put makeup on my face, make me look really, really pretty, and immediately take it off. Good morning, Hellboy. How are you sleeping or waking? I don't know what time it is for you. It's one of those things. It's one of those things. You gotta call him Daddy Bezos. It's like an insult. 1 second. Waking. I've been working since 5 p.m. Well, then I'm glad you're going to sleep. Enjoy your sleep, Hellboy. Welcome to the menagerie. Tiny Sakura, you may ask a tiny question. I will not allow large questions from you, because you're tiny. So what's your tiny question, Tiny Sakura? I'm ready. Also, let me say good morning to everybody who's checked in. You block them. Done. Thank you for being first, Star Noxtus. If you like a certain song, would it be okay if to sing it sometime? It's going gold. I could always send it in the server. Huh? If I like a certain song. Me? Yeah, I'll sing a song I like. Good morning. Thank you for getting third cast. Thank you for getting first, Star Noxtus. And thank you for getting... Wait, where's first? Oh, second. Second gibbets. Hello, Miss Kate Talia. Good morning. Oh, yeah, I mean, there's not much you can do more than block them, report them. Especially if it's on Discord. Good morning, Garmia and Spooky Cass. Good morning, Starnoxtus. Good morning, Kelbob and Ash and Cinder. Good morning, Bellatrix Blossom. Good morning, Mochi and Stellar. Good morning, Sunny the Sunshine and Belle and Beauty. Good morning. Oh, thank you so much for the redeem. Lakia, good morning, Goblin King and Momo Mia. Morning, Tiny. And Vichus. Good morning, Julia, Necro Ninja, and Sucky Peach. Morning, Void and Arya and Brum Brum. Good morning, Zakota. Kenra Wolf and Dasha. Good morning, Nimbus and your Lady Death. Good morning, Rookie's Rebellion. Good morning, Delissima. Good morning, Mazaki and Nixie Ravenwood. Good morning, Hui Hui and Cabunks and Venus Vlog. Good morning, Piggy Cafe, Amy. Good morning, Shiny and Morrigan. Good morning, Elliptical Panda and Kiana. And Admiralty. Good morning, Gibbets. Good morning, Ocean and Mizaki. Alright, good morning, Cade. Good morning, Misty Harvest. Good morning, Luna. Good morning, Galactic and Vanya. Hi, Vanya. Good morning, Ava, Max, and Meow Kitty. And of course, good morning, Miss Girlia. Alright, so we're going to take a moment here. We want to figure out what we were doing again. What was it? I have forgotten something, actually. Oh, 1 second. Honestly, I might choose one day a week to not do ASMR in the morning. Just for the day that I want to be a little bit more awake, you know? I think it might be a little fun to just do a normal day. Oh, also, there's going to be 2 streams in the evening today. I will try to be doing a horror stream as I plan to do. And then I will be doing another stream at 9 PM at night with some lovely friends of mine. It will be a thing. So yeah, right. If you need to sleep, make sure you sleep at that time, alright? If you don't sleep at that time, then it's not going to be the best for you, is it? Yes. Alright, we're going to be doing a little crime scene cleaner this morning. Oh, it looks like it's reloaded. Except you remember I do have a stupid rule that I decided to make for myself. Oh, we're going to be playing Undermire. Undermire is a indie game that I was invited to by the devs. So it looks like a lot of fun. It's a roguelite type game where you play kids entering a video game to fight like D&D style monsters. It's great. Yeah, actually I'm gonna ban gibbets from the the previous stream, so that they can't beat Academy's streak and they can only watch the second stream. Kidding. I would never do that. I mean, unless Academy asks me to. But yeah, we did mess up on this one, so I have to restart it. I would never. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Actually, I was giving them a few extra copies of the game, so I don't know if I'll give them away or not. If I can, I might not be able to. So, yes. It is crazy to me that you both have a very similar stream streak. Does that mean y'all both like came in right next to each other? Or does that mean you all only got serious about watching my stream at the same time? Mm-hmm. 9 p.m. MST is when the second game will be. Isn't that crazy that you have that high of a streak? Because I stream so often. Well, you'll get it again, don't you worry. Okay. Okay, that's broken, okay. I'll get rid of all the broken stuff first, then I do know what's broken and what's not broken. Yeah. I hear some people find stream streaks annoying, but I think people find them annoying because they are working, unfortunately. Because some people are just like, yeah, I want to maintain my stream streak, and I'm upset I can't because of blah, blah. I'm like, aha, so it's working. I broke a single glass. Did you know that a lot of my streams actually have 130 people in it? But you only see them when I change games, which is so funny to me. It's like, Twitch is like, they do not exist unless you're changing games, in which case they do exist, but only for now. Only during the transition. Which is so funny to me. Yeah, to be fair, the Duolingo streak you have to work for. Oh, whoops. Huh? I'm so confused. There we go. Duolingo's not a good app, no. Actually not for learning. That's crazy. You had me in your pocket while you're in a movie? That's... It's adorable. Brompadonky, you're the one. You make bath time lots of fun. Brompadonky, do 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 do. Ba 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 ba. Brompadonky, you're the one. Guys, you are so cute. Shut up. You make me all blushy and smiley. I've never had people want to watch me that badly. I do. Oh, well, I'm so glad that wasn't real, or else that would have broken. Thank you for the looks, Maddie. Always appreciate it. Thank you for the bit, Smokey. To be fair, most streamers don't stream twice a day, so her concern was valid. Gene appreciation stream. Isn't that every stream of mine? Because I always appreciate myself. That means somebody else has to stream. Somebody take over my stream for me so you can appreciate me. Okay, stay. Good boy. Exactly, it's a Katamio stream, that's what we have to do. No, come here. Make it you nice and clean. Don't you move. Oh, you're so dirty. Let me fix you up real quick. And clean you up nice and good. There you are. Oh, aren't you pretty? No, look how pretty you are. I'll put you right over here for now. Don't you break on me. Good boy. And you? Oh, good girl. Why not, Katamia? Yeah, everybody go follow Katamia. Can we get a shout out for Katamia? Do I say vase or vase? Vase. I'm not gonna lie. I know I should probably say vase, and I like the way vase sounds better, but I say vase. I do say color, though, with a U, though. That's right, you can hear the U when I say it. Because C-O-L-O-R just does not seem like enough letters. There it is. Oh, you know one that I always do wrong? How do you write etc.? Is it ECT or ETC? ETC? Is it? Okay. I think I did it wrong for so long that I started spelling it right and I thought it was wrong. Did you see that? Stop y'all actually spelling the real word. There's no way you knew how to spell the word regularly. ETC, ETE era. Thank you for the bit, Ace. We're intellectuals here. No big brain. Good morning, CC. How you doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you, Mutt. I appreciate it. Name for the headpats. This game is so satisfying. Oh no, I knocked over the bucket. I'm so glad I moved the bottle earlier. Look at me being smart. That was dumb. Thank you, Mutt. Thank you for the biddies. Appreciate it. Thank you, Spooky. Thank you so much. I'm muted, crash out. Alright, I guess we can do this one. Actually, you know what? I've been moving a little bit forward to see how I can handle this one. Because there's a voice that I've been wanting to work on, actually. So I might try to do this little bit of the forward southern instead of the back of the throat southern. You see, there's this evil character, this horrible, horrible evil character named Judge Holden. I don't know how many of you have heard of him before, but he is absolutely awful, and he has more of a Georgian accent compared to the voice I normally do, which is more Texan. And so, I've been thinking, how can I get there? Because he is an awful evil man and has some amazing monologues. It's from a book and I need to read them. Same guy who wrote No Country for Old Men. There we go. Oh, Tasha. Thank you for that 2-month streak. Really appreciate it. But yeah. Nice and clean. There we go. I'm getting close to Georgian. Nice. That's what I'm trying for. Slowly move forward in my mouth. Kind of sounds like Rogue the Bat. Was that Rouge? Is her name Rouge or Rogue? Isn't all by yourself, handsome? I guess she is a little southern, actually. Gambit, that's that Orleans, New Orleans. Cajun Creole. Hey, Mom, thank you so much for the biddies. What the heck's going on? Oh, and Tasha, thank you for the biddies. Cajun Creoles. Mon Cherie. Okay, so you did, well, you know what's funny? Rogue is from Georgia? Rogue the Bat is from Georgia? Wait. Rogue the Bat from Sonic. He's from Georgia? That's crazy. I thought she was from like Sega Sci-Fi World. Oh, thank you for the biddies, Spooky. Oh, X-Men. I'm disappointed. I like the idea of Rogue the Bat being from Georgia. The hell happened with Rogue? Oh, you see, sometimes when you're in Georgia, every once in a while, a girl's just pulling a Batgirl. Really? No. We don't know what happened. That's some crazy Sega Japanese sci-fi experiment. pissing all by yourself, handsome. Oh, what am I thinking about? Sounds like a fried chicken in there. Oh, lordy, lordy. There's blood. Morning, Keeper. Morning, morning, morning. You ready for next Saturday, Keeper? Actually, what are you doing this Saturday, today, evening? What were we ready to plan to do something this Saturday evening? I can't remember anymore. Whatever it was, I didn't write it down. I know I said next Saturday. No, we'll do next Saturday. Okay, good. We didn't plan this Saturday. I had to make sure. Next Saturday, we're gonna be doing that game. No, y'all. They're y'all. Or whatever you want. You can make something up like a bunch of little hush puppies. Call them little minnows. Darlings. Honestly, half the things Southern people say is made up on the spot. I'm like, no, my granddaddy always said that. No, he didn't. Granddaddy never even left his house before. Granddaddy was a shut-in. All he did was watch cartoons all day. That's right, you had a weeb granddaddy. Don't you lie to me. I know what your granddaddy was like. Oh, call them hush puppies and minnows. I don't know. No, I'm sorry, J-Bits. That was ruder than a whole bag of hornets. Is that a Southernism? Maybe. Who knows? I ain't be knowing your people that way. No, I might not know them, but I know them. Mango. I don't know if a Southern person can say the word mango. I really want to go hear my grandma say mango right now. The fruit of God, mangoes. We'd be slurping on that. Mangoes fast over yonder. Yeah, it seems a little bit more right. I need to go get my blood light. Oh. Thank you for gifting that sub. I do really appreciate it. I'll set you in here for now, okay? Don't you be breaking now. Good boy. Such a good boy. Look at him being such a good boy. There we go. Mm. Mm. I'm loving those right now. I like being a little bit more cautious this time around. I am glad I found a way to get more dopamine out of this game. Am I out of detergent? Oh no. Thank you so much for that, bats. It's gonna be like Groundhog Day. Valid. Oh, I gotta be careful. Gotta be very aware of my surroundings. Beat him up. Assert your dominance. Go to the first time you see him and T-pose on him. He's gonna go for a hug at the end of the date. Just T-pose. If he goes for a kiss, T-pose. But with your tongue. Remember, just never stop T-posing. In the middle of the theater, stand up on the chair and just T-pose. I give the best advice. So why do you go to your streamer? Because of all the great advice he gives? No. He's very dumb. Smells funny too. And why do you watch him? Funny. Fair. Smells like chocolate for some reason. I don't think everybody knows what that is about. You know, back when early days of this stream. Why was that glass there? Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Back in the early days of the stream, I told Sadie Hattie that that whenever I lie, I smell like chocolate. She believed me. It was great. And so now people will say that smells like chocolate when I'm lying. Sounds like a weird quirk of mine. I smell like chocolate whenever I lie. Really? No. Dummy. That's also why there's a channel that just says you thought. Because I said there's a channel where it just says gullible in it. She's like, what? I'm like, yeah. She goes check it out. It's like how you thought. Yeah. No, Heisenduck lost his hat. Heisenduck, we must fix you. Wait. I'll fix you later. Nah, I broke no comp. We're good. No, genuinely, just, hang out with the guy. Remember, first dates starting to get to know each other. So, feel free to ask, some questions, being like, yo, what do you think about blah, 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 blah. Don't just have fun on the first date. You don't want to go on your second date, third date, fourth date, and then realize, oh, this guy's actually homophobic and hates all children, and you want children. So, spend some time, actually, getting to know the guy on the first date. Make sure that the rest of your dates aren't a waste. Why am I getting texted? no. 1 second. I need to figure out what this says. Somebody requoted my tweet in Chinese. And so now I'm like, oh no. What's happening? What does this mean? First off, it's Japanese. Sorry. I made a post that said VTuber tip to get, if you want to get your viewers engagement and filling out a form, treat them like kids and give them stickers. Not kidding, they love it. And I showed a picture, and the person who quoted it and goes, "Shut up, Gibbets," goes, "Of course." That's all he said. He just says the words, "Of course." And that's his entire repost of that tweet. I just think I had to go through this whole thing to look it up. It's just, of course. Thank you for the follow. No, hello, first time you see me live. Oh, it is usually how following works. Welcome. Hope you enjoy your time here. No, you do remind me how lovely I am when you tell me. I just got rid of the bucket. Where did I put the... There it is. It is. I like the stickers. I think the stickers was honestly a very cute idea. I'm so happy I thought of it. I don't even know how I thought of it. Star sticker. It's such a cute sticker, isn't it? But yes, means the mods will actually talk with me just grumbling. Some of the mods know exactly what I'm saying. They've gotten used to it. Nice. Is it anybody good, Ava? What'd you get sub to? Anybody I should be worried about? No, I have no plan for apps when you won't reach 10 stickers. Somebody mentioned, I think it was you, Nixie, who mentioned that, being like, hey, let's do something for 10 stickers. I'm not a cannibal, I refuse to eat people. And I don't know how we're gonna do with it, though. It sounds like a good idea. What would you all like? Ooh, glass. Oh boy. That could have been bad. What would you all like for 10? I normally like to give, like, candy, you know? I mean, like, extra points on a report, but, I don't know. Could be maid dress. Fair. Still don't eat people. I'm not a fan of flesh, human flesh. I ain't giving people more stickers. I'm gonna start going around. Is there achievement for not breaking things? No. Have you never noticed that I just make games ridiculously difficult for myself because I can't enjoy things unless there's difficulty to them? Favorite kind of meat? Ooh, favorite kind of meat. Beef liver, probably. It's the one that I will crave, and maybe leberkäse. Mm-hmm. Specifically beef. Don't know why. Oxtail's not bad. Now you are autistic, Kadamiya. I, on the other hand, immediately used all stickers, or half the time I'd throw them away, and occasionally I'd eat them. I just really like putting things in my mouth. There's a lot of things that got eaten by me because I just put things in my mouth all the time. Or I just would break apart plastic toys. I've always had an oral fixation. Mm-hmm. Fight me, got me out. Oh, my brain always wanted to bite things. Only ever bite things. Alright, let's see how we're doing here. Oh, missed a spot. Biting, I like biting. Biting is nice. Biting makes teeth feel good. Since when did you join Scooby-Doo? Scrappy. You got the size for it. Do you have itchy teeth? Not itchy. But they do have the urge to bite. It's very much a, why no bite lately? We must bite more. Bite more. Looking good. Aha. Spots. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Satisfying. Mm-hmm. Looking good. One of those tree necklaces, that'd be nice. Let's make sure I don't hit anything on the way out. Don't bite your nails, it's so bad. Bite somebody else's nails, that way you don't have to deal with the consequences. Big brain, big brain. Done with what color? Oh, sorry, I'm on the way out with the bodies. I'm not done with the cleaning yet. Make jewel merch. I did think about making collars. I don't know if collars would be too much, but I did think about it. Anything breakable in here? Well, don't bite your lips. Oh, they make a special nail polish that will make your fingers taste nasty. You should get that. Make your fingers gross. Oh, there's like a finger spray that you can put on your fingers to make them taste bad. I feel like once they made the announcement that the Switch game cartridges taste bad, more people put them in their mouth. Out of curiosity. Good point. Get gel nail polish. Don't chew straw. My sister used to do that as a child. I never understood it. I'd see her drinking from something with a straw, and you'd see her the bottle, and it would have, like, the straw was completely flat because she'd chew on it. I'm like, why? I didn't chew on things. I broke things. I need the progress of the breaking. So are people, though. Yes, go put nail polish on. I believe in you. Polish up them nails. If you chew on your nails, I'm gonna smack your hands. Okay? I'm gonna come around and go, ta. Maybe with a stretch mark. This part's satisfying. Maybe we'll try pressure wash the simulator again. Maybe. No promises. I did the early park level, and I couldn't get through it. Nice, well, good luck on completing all your projects. Bring the light in. I'm still gonna clean that wall. How are we doing underneath the, Good. Why would she do... She would put more salt in your food to make you drink it? That doesn't make any sense to me. Why did she just not give you more water? They give you like a fun bottle to drink out of. That's why I like drinking water, because I'd get like a silly straw or something. Oh nice, I'm glad you finished 3 months of work. There's the 80s. Were people just stupid in the 80s? So you're trying to tell me? Not saying your mom was stupid, but that feels dumb to me. Why are you crashing out, Asher? Not allowed. Uncrash out. I'll tell you something, not today. My plate's clean. What an amazing job, aren't we? I'm gonna go to my least favorite room. I don't like this room. I don't know if it's the color or what is wrong with it, but I hate that room. I gotta figure out how to get to the back room again. Was it... I think it was like talked about in a specific space how to get to that back room. Oh, well, go lay down, Asher. Go relax. Okay. Money and drugs, money and drugs, money and drugs, yeah. Money. I found Katamiya's little closet. Katamiya has been just keeping tea and the little storage unit. Because they're British, you know. Seen a book on Rome. Do you know what was funny? During that time when everybody had that thing about, like, guys always think about Rome, I was really busy thinking about Rome a lot. Don't ask me why I was thinking about Rome so much. Just felt like the thing to do. No, but specifically Rome. It's kind of funny to me. Well, I was thinking about Rome before all that stuff went down. Maybe it's just like a lot of stuff was happening, and I think about like the fall of Rome a lot. Well, because I think about like the philosophers and the burning of the Library of Alexandria. There's a lot of big stuff that happened with Rome. I can't remember how to open this, but there's a way to open this. It makes me sad too. Fair enough, yeah. I'm glad I can be therapeutic for you. Ooh, that's a lot of blood. I love cleaning up all the blood. This game's the best. Good morning, Jack Walker. How you doing? Morning, good morning, good morning. I'm gonna have to change Sunday stream. I forgot about that. No, we'll talk about it later. I'll do a little announcement post on it. Crispy. But how are you? Yay, blood. Why do you assume I have little legs? My legs are big. I got big legs. You won't even know how big my legs are. Biggest legs. Big old tree trunks. Come on, legs little. What the heck? I'm 80% torso. Gibbets, what the heck? What the heck, Gibbets? That's fair. You are a little chippy. All of chat's little chippies. I'm born a chippy. Good morning, Lost Soul. Been a little bit. How you doing, sweetie? I'm Penguin. It's true, actually. I even... No, I can't say that. Do you know how penguins poop? So penguins do this thing where they keep walking around in circles to stay warm. But they, like, they'll swap who's on the outside, so nobody's on the outside the entire time. Well, to avoid pooping, like, where they're walking, they kind of projectile poop to avoid it being in the midst of them. So the way people will track where penguins have been is by finding their poop circles. Thank you for following me for that fact, Jinja. Yeah, and I was like, you said I'm a penguin. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I do. How did I sense this up? What? Who get the sprayer? Oh, thank you. Yeah, our morning streams are very chill and relaxed, a little goofy, and our evening streams are significantly more goofy. So, pick your energy level. You can come to both, of course. No, you can only come to one stream. You have to pick which stream you want. That'd be so funny, honestly. How many stickers are we at? I refuse to choose. We see what they say. If you refuse to decide, you still have made a choice. I will choose the path that's clear. I will choose free will. Bing, 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 bing. No, that's Rush. I love Rush. Great band. There's unrest in the forest, there's disturbance with the trees, 'cause the maples want more sunlight and the oaks deny their pleas. Problem with the maples is they're quite convinced they're right. Say the oaks are just too lofty, they must give up all their light. Do 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 do. Dun, 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 dun. I got the VIP card. Where's this go? No, the VIP card goes somewhere. Found it. Aha. Let me not break this stuff. Ooh, okay, very carefully. There we go. Well, I zoned out. What were we talking about? We're talking about One Piece? We're talking about One Piece? First off, nerds. Second, I love One Piece. Puppy penguins. Oh, wait, does One Piece have puppy penguins? They do, don't they? Oh, because Thriller Bark. Yeah. Because they made the yeah. Yeah. That is a thing. Can't believe I forgot all about that. Everything I touch turns to gold, then to gold, then to rust, then to dust. Oh, look at that guy. What? Good morning. Bunch of nerds up in this chat. Shame. Oh, you need to watch the One Piece fan edit that shortens it. I can't remember what it's called. It's a lot nicer. It's easier to get through. Because it gets rid of like some of the more excessive back and forth stuff. And you realize how dumb some of it is. One Piece, that's what it is, yeah. Because it's like, it's funny. They'll just be like, oh, look at this side. Now look at this guy again. Now look back at this guy. Now look at this guy. Okay, we're going to look at this guy again. All right, now we're going to punch. And sometimes it honestly does feel like they're just trying to flesh out an entire episode. But it's also good to have, running in the background while you do other things. That's why I like dubs. Gene, dubs are the worst. I will kill you. Just kidding. I would never. But how dare you disagree with me? Who watches Naruto more than once? And or Bleach more than once? Wait, where'd my, where'd my bucket go? Wait, where'd my bucket go? There it is. Well, yeah, but your name is Kakashi's wife, Sarah, so that makes sense. Bleach is something I haven't finished. Bleach had too many fillers. Alright, I think we're good. Wait, we're at 98% blood. Where's the extra blood? Oh. 99. 100. We're good here. Just need to move furniture back. I think we're alright. Now I have to figure out what furniture I'm missing. Oh, there's supposed to be a table here, isn't there? Where'd I put the table? I won't lose a table. Well, like this. Where did I put the table? Oh, it's here somewhere. Was it this chair? No, it wasn't that chair. There it is. Okay, and now... planter. Okay, furniture's good. All tasks complete. Oh, you didn't break a single thing. Heck yeah. I have seen a bit of the Ghost Stories dub. Thank you for those stretches and the hydrates. Okay, we have all the trash, right? Double checking. Double checking. We haven't smashed a single thing. Oh, I need the bucket. Let me get all my stuff real quick. Imagine you come into this place and it's like, oh, this place is perfectly clean. Why is there a UV lamp out here? Well, that's suspicious. I'd be more suspicious if there was a UV lamp and there was nothing that it was finding than finding nothing. Nice, I only need like 2 bags of trash. I mean, I'll empty this last bag. I can't. Great. Done. I'm gonna mute the game while it grades. Crime scene cleaner. Yes, we got all the secrets. Yes. Yes. I think I might have missed some secrets last time we played this. The possessed can's going. This is why I also muted, because the possessed can. Oh, I'm sorry, Stellar. I hope you feel better soon. There it is. Can't believe there's 2 possessed scans. There's 3 possessed cans. That's insane. Okay, let's see. I do want to increase the, strengthen them up. Distance. Increase speed. Be nice to have another sponge. And then the pressure washer's good. I'm really gonna mess with the cleaner since. Oh, I love the ozonator. And I would love a handy axe. So as a small step ladder was nice. And I think a bigger tank on that would be nice. There we go. Nice. It's me. Wait, you don't like the fact that I put the stepladder on everything? This game is so satisfying. This game is so satisfying, I love it. Karamiya realized that I'm tall because I would put the stepladder on things I was unbalanced. And it made her realize that I didn't think about these things. I'm not used to using a stepladder. Doesn't count if it's in my apartment. Who cares about trash? Stepladder's totally go in beds. Why would it not? It fits up there, doesn't it? That's insane. Imagine denying a person the money that they need to save their daughter, but then being like, I hope she's doing okay. You can't do that, I'm sorry. My height is permanent. Oh, this is one of my favorite places to clean. Karamiya, which one was your favorite to clean or watch me clean? I like this loft. It's very straightforward. It's nice. The garden party. Oh, why that one? There we go. Oh, the one that was like at the campground? Or the one that was with the fancy house? talking about. Yeah, that one. I like this one because it was so densely dirty. This morning I had 2 Eggo waffles with jelly and peanut butter between them. It was very, very tasty. Oh, you like it when I'm happy. It's cute. Let's see if we can find all the secrets here. There we go, there's that. Yeah, of course I'm gonna bully you. I'm gonna bully you for everything. Wow, you have emotions and care about me? Crazy. Some crazy work there, girl. Maple syrup. I wish I had maple. I want maple syrup and butter so badly. But every time I go to the store, I forget to get it. Like when Kadavia gets frustrated that people call them out for the for wrestling. Right. I never knew my real ladder. Hey, chat. Sit up straight. Stretch your back. Stop pretzeling right now. And drink some water. Take your meds. And if you haven't eaten today, eat something. Yeah, I never knew my real ladder. I only knew my step ladder. Get out of your walls. No, comfy. Oh, wake up, wake the sun. Wake up, baby. Okay, it's still fine. Make me some breakfast too. Make me the kind of breakfast you'd make a good booty call. Sorry. Hey, it's funny. Wow, my house is spotless, but all my jewelry is missing. I was really broke when I came in. We're fine. I got an idea. Too many monkeys jumping on a bed, and one fell off and bumped his head. Mama called the doctor, and the doctor said, no more monkeys jumping on the bed. 4 little monkeys jumping on the bed. He fell off and bumped his head. Mama called the doctor, and the doctor said, no more monkeys jumping on the bed. 3 little monkeys jumping on bed. One fell off and bumped his head. It was me, I died. Anyways. Yee, juju. Man, I ripperonis. Ripperoni and pizza. Okay. But right. Left click. There you go, okay. Oh, you did it once, it's fine. I only dropped the bucket once. I would never do that thing twice in a row, that's crazy. It's just washing the bucket. I forgot about this.
Initializing process of verification.
Shrimp buckets do need cleaning. Did you have to clean up a lot of blood working at a hotel? I sure hope not. Never know, though. Oh, stream's been going by pretty fast today. What do you think? Fair enough. The amount of people who like rent Airbnbs, I've heard this happen more than once, and like birth their child on the Airbnb is crazy. I guess it's cheaper than, going to a hospital, but it's the world coming to. God, are we talking about... how far back is your lag, Sarah, that we were talking about? That you're talking about the booty call thing from earlier? Somebody ask Sarah how bad their lag is. Oh, okay, it's your phone. You're not too far back. I wasn't sure how much you're missing.
Just a little more effort and room will be ready.
Does this actually exist? Does this do something? Somebody needs to look up in an ozonator and tell me if these things actually exist. If they do anything. Yeah, this is not an air purifier, it's an ozonator. It's specifically supposed to do something with like loosening up things here. It makes ozone, which would be O3? Interesting. Okay, so mostly just as air purification is all it really does. You have an ozone purifier for your cats? What? You purify your cats? Why are your cats contaminated? She didn't break anything yet? No, I have not broken anything yet. I've been very good.
I can remove up to 99% of harmful particles from the air.
Yes, you can. I'm proud of you, buddy. It'll purify you.
Refreshing the air.
Bug it. Dear God, there's more. No. May I have the bucket? I've been doing nothing but telebrowning Brad all day. Hi, Mel. How you doing? Not one of those fancy hotels where they care about your health. I don't know if there's any hotel that cares about its staff's health. Let's be honest. Like even the ones that take like exceptional care of their inhabitants probably care less about their staff than normal hotels. Cause they're like, no, you gotta deal with all this horrible crap that's happening to you. Cause that's what we're known for, dealing with people's crap. I'll figure out where you go later. See, this game paid so much attention to detail that it lets you, if you use the sponge on the carpet, it works a little bit better than using the mop. They didn't have to do that. There's little details like this that make me like this game a lot more. Yes. Oh yeah, no, it's funny interacting with somebody who is in a horrible job, because you giving them the basic kindness makes them treat you significantly better. Because they're just like, oh, I get to be a human being today? That's nice. Which is also really sad. But everybody deserves respect for the work they do.
Cleanliness is improving.
No matter what that job is. Oh, we're at an hour and 42 minutes. Really? This game is good. Oh, this game's so good. I don't even realize how much time passes when I play it.
Air purification.
Oh, speaking of, we might be doing some more just chatting streams soon. Might be focusing on it because I want to go back to some of my basics here and fix some of my streaming skills. You forget about them, you get complacent, and so I gotta practice more. Yes, there's gonna be more chattings. Oh yeah. It's missing. Where's the blood? There it is. He wants to talk to us. Do you think I normally don't want to talk to you? What? Hi, Bunch. Of course I want to talk to you. I love talking to my chatters. I just want to focus on talking to you for a little while. Okay, where does... There it goes. Okay. You go somewhere. Cargo space? No, car don't do that. Cargo on ground. Crazy. Katamia, are we feeling needy? Sounds like a needy response, Katamia. Thank you for that, Pants. No. I'm needy too. You're allowed to be needy. Please don't go. Please stay.
Ready for more work.
Hey, I'll admit I'm needy. I know what I am. I know who I am. I know what I do. Who's a good little bot? Stay here. Don't fall. Don't fall. Be a good boy. Sit up straight. Hey. What did I just say? Sit up straight, okay? Be a good boy and stop wobbling. What are you doing? You're insane. Okay. Come on, be a good boy and sit up straight. Okay. Why are you spinning faster? What is happening? What is inside of you? Is there a small ferret inside of you? What is happening? Why are you spinning faster? Stop it. What are you doing? Who programmed you to be so stupid? You. Is it the blood? I need you to stand up, please. Please stand up. It's in the dead center of the room. So I'm gonna run into it and it's gonna break and I have to start over, but hey. At least I don't need to clean up any blood over here. It's gotta be careful on this side. Oh, that's gonna drive me insane.
There's nothing to do here. Cleaning procedure started.
Oh, I don't know what I would do. I don't know what I'd do if I just suddenly heard a smashing sound of it breaking. Just like randomly. I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about the idea of it just breaking randomly and how much that would upset me. It would be funny though. It would be so funny. I know it would be. Our crash out will be legendary. Something's being trout, joining the trout population. And it would most definitely require muting.
Room cleanliness is improving.
I would shatter the world. I want to throw the unicorn so badly. 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 It's not worth it though.
Just
Goofy.
a little more effort and room will be ready.
Say little monkey. It is a funny bit. It'd be so funny though. If I break anything, I'm hunting down the unicorn and chucking it. Who leaves a grave for what? It looks like it'd make a nice sound when I break it. That's why. That's all it did was exist. That's all it needs to do is exist. Makes a nice sound, you know? You dig?
Cleaning procedure finished.
Charlie, Charlie, I'm going to Candy Mountain, Charlie. Okay, So come close. So we're coming close to the end of the stream here. Just want to talk to y'all for a little bit. This evening we'll be doing a horror game. Do I know what horror game? No, but we're definitely doing a horror game. And then later the evening we're doing an even later stream with Mukia and some of their friends. Should be a lot of fun. Sunday the afternoon stream might be a little earlier, or might not be happening at all. I'm not sure yet, because I have a scheduled thing at 4, which is when the stream starts. Maybe I'll push it back. We'll see. Either the afternoon stream will not be happening, or I'll be change the time, because I'm going to be doing a audio recording with those guys for the demo. So I'll need to set everything up in my closet and get everything ready. So it'll be a whole process for that. So we'll see. But I'll let you all know, like, same day, if I have to cancel that stream. But yeah, cool. Closet Gene. Yeah, I'm going into the closet. I gotta set up the closet nicely. There's the Discord link. Don't forget the socials. If you follow on Twitter, X, I really do appreciate that one. Because, it's the one that the sponsors care the most about. But apparently my stupid post that I posted last night is doing really well. I didn't think so many people would relate with it, but I have, what the heck? 831 likes, 217 favorites, 21 reposts, and 13 comments. That's so goofy. Oh yeah, Twitter is also really good for updates, so I post the updates. I post the updates on Twitter, and I post the updates on Discord. Anyways, I'm gonna be dropping. Let's see if we can raid somebody. Enjoy Underground. Y'all be lovely. Thank you so much for the follow, Willa Luna. We're gonna be raiding out to let's see. What do we have this morning? Okay, are you doing something fun this morning, or are you just being... Man, we raided into one person the one time, and I liked the raid we did on them, and they have never since done the same thing again. It's so annoying. Oh, Beamy's streaming. Okay, we'll go say hi to Beamy. Looks like they're just starting, so maybe we'll give them a minute before they get going. We'll relax here. Why is my phone vibrating so much? No, I'm sorry, Shadowy. That's alright, sweetie. We're back later today. We're doing 2 more streams today. Alright, looks like Beamy's coming up. Hey, buddy. Come say hi to Beamy. Can I get that raid 2 up? I think it's, what is the expiration point? Raid 2? Was it raid 2? Nope, that's the wrong one. Thank you, Katamia. Please copy the EP raid. And we'll send you over there in just a second. But I appreciate y'all coming by, okay? Y'all are the best. Thank you so much. Thank you. Mwah. 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 Bye, lovelies.